Okay, so moving on now to similes, and you'll be probably familiar with using similes quite a lot in your work, and hopefully you do use them quite a bit, because when they're done well, they can be quite effective, and certainly they bring a lot of personality and life to your work. But the things to avoid are these tired and cliched ones. Your old-fashioned ones, or she growled like a dog, or something like she flew like a bird, and all these sorts of really boring, and while they do add a little bit, they don't add as nearly as effective of a sort of a sensation or a feeling that you would get if you use something a little bit different, a little bit edgier, all those things that you need to really help bring your story more to life. When I read something like this, and it's something that drives a lot of teachers nutty, I can tell you that now. If I read that sort of thing, I almost gloss over it. My eyes glaze and I don't really pick up on it. That doesn't really add any effect, and it certainly doesn't really add any of my attention to it. So what you need to do is start to think of other ways of describing something, other than just say, well, she just growled like a dog. I mean, describe growling in another sense. There are other animals, for instance, that growl. There are other ways in which they can growl. There are different things you can say rather than just she growled like a dog, because that's the obvious one. Be original and ensure that you have something strong to make. In this case, we wouldn't even argue that she growled like a dog was perhaps the best one, because if you sort of imagine it, it almost looks a bit weird. And certainly if you could say, okay, yeah, she was angry and she growled like a dog, well, that probably could work. But again, you need to have something which sort of stands out. We're going to use something which is in itself a little bit cliched as well, but what we're going to do is we're going to expand on it in such a way which sort of refreshes it a little bit. And we're going to incorporate it into a part of their personality as well. So in this case, this is more about how we want to represent that person as being, and not necessarily just saying, oh, she growled like this and she flew like that and she did this and did that. She was like a snake, as a fierce hiss burst from her lips and her eyes went cold and dark as if she were ready to strike with a full load of venom. That sort of description helps to really cement that characterization. Yes, as I said, it's something that snake, fierce, all those things, yes, it's been done before, but it refreshes it in the sense that it not only extends that image and continues with it, but it starts to really inject a bit of her personality into that creature. For that reason, that we start to see the similes which are being used here, used a lot more effectively than just sort of throwaway lines here and there. And it sort of carries people onto that image. People start to imagine her with sort of snake-like features, or as someone who is fierce and ready to strike and having those snake-like qualities. To have those characters and be able to represent them in that way and really extend it so it becomes more interesting is what you need to be looking at. Tone, we'll move on to this, and your tone needs to remain consistent. It means that you don't break character and you don't detour somewhere else. What I mean by that is when you say don't break character, now if you hear this mentioned in theatre or film, it's to say that once you go on camera or once you go on stage, that you stay in character no matter what happens. You stay as that person, rather than if someone coughs in the audience and you sort of look away for a moment. You don't do that, you just stay in character, you stay who you are and they would say and what they would do. Especially if something goes wrong, which is the exact same process as when you're writing. So if your tone is one way, then you don't immediately change it to another. Avoid something like this. The windows rattled furiously as the wind gathered fury, ready to strike the weatherboard with a fresh and vibrant feeling of a beautiful winter's morning. Okay, that sort of ruins that great image that I was starting with and sort of goes into something which is much brighter and happier, which, okay, it might be good if you have that or that separately, but not together. It takes people away, it removes any kind of thing that you're feeling, so this terror that you may have been feeling at the beginning is certainly lost by the end. So basically be very, very careful of the descriptions you choose and make sure that it stays on the same tone. Never, ever ruin the moment. That's probably the philosophy of that story right there.